The rain had been falling since early morning, turning the city streets into shimmering mirrors. Ethan Parker, a 32-year-old carpenter, pulled his jacket tighter as he stepped into a cozy neighborhood cafe. Since losing his wife 2 years earlier, he had grown used to eating alone. The quiet had become part of his life, even if he never truly welcomed it. The cafe buzzed with conversation. Every table seemed full except for the empty chair across from him. He ordered a hot coffee and stared out the window, lost in thought. A few moments later, the front door opened again. A young woman in a wheelchair slowly rolled inside, balancing a tray of coffee and a sandwich on her lap. She looked to be in her mid-20s, with kind blue eyes and chestnut-brown hair tucked beneath a knitted hat. Her name, though Ethan didn't know it yet, was Lily. She glanced around the crowded room. Twice she politely asked if she could join other tables. Each time, people avoided eye contact. One man muttered that he was waiting for someone. Another family quietly gathered their bags and moved away. Lily lowered her eyes, trying to hide the hurt that had become all too familiar. She noticed Ethan sitting alone. Taking a deep breath, she wheeled herself toward him. "Can I sit with you?" she asked softly, almost whispering, as if she expected another rejection. Without even hesitating, Ethan smiled warmly. "Of course," he said, standing up to pull the chair aside and make room for her wheelchair. "I was hoping someone would help me finish this giant slice of pie anyway." Lily laughed, a genuine laugh she hadn't heard from herself in weeks. "I'm Lily," she said. "Ethan." They began talking about ordinary things, favorite books, rainy weather, music, and the little bakery across the street. Slowly, the conversation became more personal. Lily revealed that 3 years earlier she had survived a devastating car accident. Although she recovered, the injury left her unable to walk. The physical pain had faded, but the loneliness remained. She admitted that strangers often treated her as if her wheelchair defined who she was. "I don't mind people staring anymore," she said quietly. "What hurts is when they pretend I don't exist." Ethan looked her in the eyes. "I see you," he replied. "Not the wheelchair. Just you." For a moment, neither of them spoke. When it was time to leave, Ethan noticed the cafe's accessibility ramp had cracked, making it difficult to get outside. Without drawing attention, he carefully helped guide Lily safely to the sidewalk. As the rain eased and sunlight broke through the clouds, Lily smiled with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Today, you reminded me that kindness still exists." Ethan watched her disappear down the street, unaware that saying one simple word, "yes," had just begun a journey that would change both of their lives forever. A week passed, but Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Lily. It wasn't because she was in a wheelchair. It was because, for the first time in years, someone had made him laugh without trying. Their conversation kept replaying in his mind as he worked in his small woodworking shop. Every cut of the saw, every swing of the hammer, reminded him of the smile that had appeared on Lily's face when she realized someone simply wanted to talk to her. The following Saturday, Ethan found himself walking back to the same cafe. He didn't even know if Lily would be there. As he stepped inside, he smiled. She was sitting near the window with a sketchbook resting on her lap, completely absorbed in her drawing. When she looked up and saw him, her face lit up. "You came back," she said with surprise. "I guess the coffee wasn't the only reason," Ethan replied with a grin. From that day on, Saturdays became their tradition. They talked for hours about life, dreams, favorite movies, and childhood memories. Ethan learned that before her accident, Lily had dreamed of becoming an art teacher. She loved painting mountains, forests, and wildflowers, believing every landscape told a story. One afternoon, Ethan noticed the sketchbook she always carried. "May I see your drawings?" he asked. Lily hesitated before handing it over. As Ethan turned each page, he was speechless. The sketches looked like they belonged in a professional gallery. Every pencil stroke captured emotion so perfectly that it felt as though the pictures were alive. "These are incredible," he whispered. Lily looked away. "They're just a hobby now." "What do you mean?" She sighed. "After the accident, schools stopped calling. Employers saw the wheelchair before they saw me. Eventually, I stopped applying. Dreams are expensive when people don't believe in you." Her words hit Ethan harder than he expected. That evening, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the children who might never experience Lily's talent simply because the world had overlooked her. The next morning, Ethan unlocked his workshop earlier than usual. Instead of working on customer orders, he pulled out stacks of oak wood and began measuring carefully. For days he worked late into the night, building wheelchair-accessible easels, adjustable art tables, and sturdy wooden shelves. His closest friends noticed the unusual project and offered to help. One painted the furniture. Another donated supplies. A local electrician volunteered to repair the lights in an abandoned community hall that had been sitting empty for years. 3 weeks later, Ethan called Lily. "I need you to come somewhere," he said. Curious, she followed him to the old building. When the doors opened, Lily covered her mouth in disbelief. The dusty hall had been transformed into a bright, welcoming art studio filled with sunlight, colorful paint, handmade easels, and a sign above the entrance that read, "Dream beyond limits, art for every child." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You built this, for me," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "No," he answered softly. "I built it for every child who needs a teacher like you." For the first time since the accident, Lily didn't see the life she had lost. She saw the future waiting just beyond the open door. The grand opening of Dream Beyond Limits arrived on a bright Saturday morning. Lily barely slept the night before. She had arranged every paintbrush, lined up every canvas, and checked the wheelchair-accessible tables at least 10 times. "What if no one comes?" she asked Ethan nervously as they unlocked the front door. He smiled reassuringly. "Then we'll spend the day painting together. But I have a feeling this place is about to surprise us." At exactly 10 o'clock, the door opened. A little boy wearing leg braces stepped inside, holding his mother's hand. He looked around shyly before asking, "Is this where I can learn to paint?" Lily knelt beside him as much as she could from her wheelchair and smiled. "Not only can you learn," she said, "but you can create anything you imagine." Soon another child arrived. Then another. By lunchtime, 8 children were happily painting colorful pictures of mountains, animals, and rainbows. The room that had once been silent echoed with laughter. Watching from the corner, Ethan realized he had never seen Lily look so alive. Weeks passed, and the studio became a place where children of every ability felt welcome. Parents began sharing photos and videos online of their children proudly displaying their artwork. One video showed Lily encouraging a nervous little girl who believed she wasn't talented enough to paint. The clip spread across social media overnight. Within days, thousands of people had watched it. Messages poured in from across the country. Artists donated supplies. Local businesses sponsored free classes, and volunteers offered their time. Families drove for hours just to attend Lily's workshops. One morning, a television crew arrived. "We'd like to feature your story," the reporter said. Lily hesitated. She had never liked being the center of attention. During the interview, the reporter asked, "What inspired you to create this place?" Lily looked across the room at Ethan, who was quietly helping a young boy mix colors. With tears in her eyes, she smiled. "Everyone thinks this studio started with paint, brushes, and donations," she said. "But it really began with one small question." She paused. "I asked a stranger, 'Can I sit with you?' The room fell silent. And he said yes. That one word reminded me that kindness can change a person's future." The interview aired that evening. Millions of viewers were touched by the story. Donations flooded in from people who wanted to support the studio. Enough money was raised to open new art programs, provide free transportation for children with disabilities, and buy adaptive equipment so every child could participate. As Lily locked the studio that night, she looked up at the stars. Just months earlier, she had believed her life was over. Now, because one stranger had chosen kindness over indifference, she wasn't just rebuilding her own future, she was helping hundreds of children discover theirs. Sometimes, the biggest miracles don't begin with money or fame. They begin with someone simply saying, "Yes, you belong here." 2 years passed, and Dream Beyond Limits had become far more than an art studio. It had grown into a place of hope, where children with disabilities, their families, and volunteers came together to laugh, learn, and believe in themselves. The once empty community hall was now filled with colorful paintings covering every wall. Every weekend, Dozens of children proudly carried home their artwork, while parents smiled through tears as they watched their children gain confidence they had never thought possible. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ethan received an invitation from Lily. "Meet me at the cafe. Same table. Same time." The message made him smile. When he arrived, nothing had changed. The warm smell of fresh coffee still filled the air, and the rain tapped softly against the windows, just like it had on the day they first met. A few minutes later, Lily rolled through the front door. The cafe owner immediately greeted her with a hug. "It's good to see you again," he said. "Your usual table is waiting." Lily wheeled over to Ethan with the same gentle smile he had never forgotten. She looked at the empty chair beside him and laughed. "Can I sit with you?" she asked playfully. Ethan chuckled. "Lily," he said warmly, "you never have to ask again." They both laughed, remembering how one simple question had changed everything. Just then, the cafe owner walked over carrying a small wooden plaque. He placed it beside their table. It read, "Reserved for kindness. One empty seat can change a life." The customers nearby began applauding softly. Ethan looked around, confused. Before he could ask what was happening, the cafe doors opened again. More than 50 children from Dream Beyond Limits entered, each holding a small wrapped canvas. Behind them came their parents, volunteers, and teachers. One little girl stepped forward. "Miss Lily," she said, "we made these for you." Together, the children unwrapped their paintings. Each canvas showed the same simple scene, a man sitting alone at a cafe table, smiling as a young woman in a wheelchair asked, "Can I sit with you?" The final painting carried just one sentence. One act of kindness created 1,000 more. Lily couldn't hold back her tears. "So many people think you saved my life," she whispered to Ethan. He gently shook his head. "No," he replied. "You saved mine too. After I lost my wife, I thought my story was over. You gave me a reason to smile again, a reason to hope again, and a purpose I never expected." Lily reached across the table and took his hand. "You know," she said softly, "the best stories don't begin with perfect people. They begin with ordinary people making one kind choice." As the sun broke through the clouds, filling the cafe with warm golden light, Ethan looked around at the children laughing together. He realized that kindness is never wasted. A single yes had become a community, a family, and a legacy that would inspire generations. And every time someone asked, "Can I sit with you?" there would always be an empty seat waiting.